When it comes to the Detroit Lions, everyone seems to have a take on the offseason they've had so far. But yesterday, arguably the biggest analyst in the business had an extreme urging of the Lions in regards to a contract situation they've been having. And we're going to talk about it in this episode, folks. So stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans, and welcome back once again to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So here's the thing, folks. This offseason, I've talked about it at great length when it comes to the Detroit Lions. And this is an offseason, I've talked about it, I've equated it to being kind of like a roller coaster, but all kidding aside, this is an offseason where the Lions have probably gotten more interest, they have gotten more attention as to what they're doing, more so than what they usually have gotten in the past. Because usually, when the Lions have made moves in the past, people might talk about the move for what it is, but they usually don't talk about it as how it might relate to the rest of the organization, what the future plans are, or how the rest of it is going to fit into everything that's going on. And when you think about it, it's not just necessarily with, free agency signings that they're doing. This is also in regards to draft visits that they're having, because the Lions have had draft visits so far, and they keep bringing in more and more draft visits, obviously the closer we've been getting to the NFL draft. I mean, for crying out loud, yesterday they made a top 30 visit announcement that they were bringing Kentucky cornerback Andrew Phillips. And that was somehow some interesting news that some Lions fans looked at, and I was like, well, okay then. So when we're talking about the Lions this offseason, it's definitely got a different heart of the substance, if you will, as far as how the Lions are being viewed this year. However, regardless of whether we're talking about free agency, regardless of whether we've been talking about the draft, as I stated in a recent episode, there is one storyline, there is one story that is just simply not going anywhere anytime soon. It's not going away. It continues to be on simmer. It continues to keep bubbling because there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of opinion in regards to the issue that the story is. And the issue is Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown's pending contract extensions. Again, the Lions are not the only ones right now, Lions fans particularly is what I'm talking about, that are interested, that are wondering, concerned even, as far as what the Lions are doing when it comes to the contract negotiations, to the extensions that they're supposed to be handing out. There have been a lot of people that have offered their various takes, their various opinions about the situation, about what the Lions are doing, what they're not doing, how it's being influenced by the outside market, how other teams, other signings are influencing to the situation. And again, a lot of this has been talked about some of the biggest analysts in the sport. I'm a podcaster. I'm not going to say I'm big by any stretch of the imagination, but I, including that, has also given my opinion on that. And yesterday, I would say arguably the biggest analyst, the biggest person in the entire sport of what you would call football, as far as an analyst, as far as somebody that has a voice of reason, decided to offer his opinion, decided to offer his take, and that was Adam Schefter. On April 9th, Adam Schefter decided to offer his take on the situation. He decided to talk about the situation about the Detroit Lions. Now, obviously, Adam Schefter talked more than just about the contract situation, the negotiations that are going on with the Detroit Lions and, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. He talked about how he was like, listen, he's liked what the Detroit Lions have done so far this offseason. He's been a big fan of what they've been doing. He's thought that they've done a good job. And on top of that, he thinks that the Lions are in a position to where, because of how they've been so far this offseason, it is going to set them up for long-term success, that it's going to make sure that they're in a position to succeed. But Once that conversation kind of got done and over with, Schefter then started talking about what we're talking about in this episode, which is the whole contract extensions negotiations that are focused solely 100% on Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that's where Schefter decided to, kind of put himself out there a little bit. And he stated that if he was in charge of the Detroit Lions, when it comes to that whole situation of Holmes' handling of, Goff and St. Brown, he said that if he was in charge, he would lock down Goff and St. Brown as soon as possible. He said that is something that he would want to get done quickly. Schefter said specifically, just to quote Schefter right off the bat, he said, "To me, I think it'd be better to do all these extensions sooner rather than later." So again, what Schefter is trying to say there quite plainly is that, listen, I'm not trying to wait on this. I would be trying to get this done extremely fast, as quickly as possible. And again, Schefter obviously has his reasons. What were the specific reasons that he highlighted as to why he feels that there needs to be a sense of urgency? There needs to be an extreme motion as to why these contract negotiations need to be handled right away. This is what Schefter said. This is a rather long quote, but again, you guys will understand where I'm coming from with this and why he said what he said. Schefter stated, "There's going to be some big QB deals that get done at some point this summer. Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love. Once those deals get done, the number on Jared Goff, I would imagine, would only go up. And it's similar for the wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has proven himself to be one of the best young wide receivers in the game. Jamar Chase wants a new deal. T. Higgins wants a new deal. Jalen Waddle wants a new deal. CeeDee Lamb wants a new deal. A lot of these wide receivers want a new deal." So, in essence, what Adam Schefter is pointing out there is a perspective that has a lot of valid points, because you have to think about it here. Adam Schefter is not the only person that has presented this perspective. Adam Schefter is not the only person who has brought up this perspective. This is a perspective, this is an opinion that a lot of different analysts have voiced. This is a perspective that I know a lot of Lions fans that I have personally talked to have brought forward as their reasoning as to why they are concerned, why they are wondering, why Brad Holmes has not gotten these deals done sooner. Because what everybody knows about how the NFL operates, especially when it comes to contract negotiations, when it comes to contract extensions, is that star players, top 10 players especially, it's going to be how do I put this? There's going to be a very high price tag that is often associated with those types of players. And that price tag is going to often be influenced by contracts of other players that are at the same position. So if you think about it, let's just put it in the perspective that us Lions fans understand. Amon-Ra St. Brown is easily, without a doubt, a top 10 wide receiver in the game. Because you take a look at all of Amon-Ra St. Brown's production from the moment he got in the league to now, he has steadily gotten better every single year, not only in his talent level, but also in his production level. So there's absolutely no doubt in my mind as to why Amon-Ra St. Brown should get paid like a top wide receiver. The guy has been to Pro Bowls. If I recall correctly, he was named an All-Pro. So yeah, it's not even up for debate. Then you flip it over on the other side of things and you take a look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff, since he has been with the Detroit Lions, has been a top 10 producing quarterback in the NFL compared to his other peers. So I'm talking about from 2021 until now. But even if you go to the beginning of his career, he's still considered a top 10 producing quarterback in the time since he's been in the league until now. But then you take a look at what Jared Goff has done for the Lions. He led the Lions to 2 playoff victories in one season, something that has not been done since the 1950s. He got the Lions to a conference championship game, something that has not been done since the 1990s, and winning a playoff game and a division crown title. So it's like, listen, Jared Goff, not only within his own right compared to his peers as a top 10 quarterback, not only in terms of his productivity, but also in terms of his talent level, but also in terms of what he has been able to do for the Detroit Lions. It's like, listen, the guy deserves to be paid like a top player. And when we take a look at wide receiver and quarterback, what other players in that position are getting, especially the top players are getting, it's going to definitely influence what these two men are going to be able to, one, respectfully ask for, but what they can also respectfully get. Now, Schefter further drove home his point by further saying this. He then said, so, you could act now or wait. And he's talking about, obviously, the contracts. And I would imagine that the agents of these players perhaps might want to wait, because the longer they wait, the more the price is going to go up. If you're the Lions, to me, you act sooner because the price is going to go up. So what Schefter is clearly doing there is he's demonstrating that, listen, for the players, the negotiators, as far as their agents, they're going to want to wait as long as possible to try and sign a contract, because they realize that anybody else that signs contracts, that's going to further influence the ability for them to ask for more money, which obviously a player's agent is to try and get the best deal possible for their player, for their representative. Whereas the ball club, what Schefter is trying to point out there, is that typically ball clubs want to try and get deals done as quickly as possible so they don't have to contend with the market, potentially driving up the price tag. That is a usual logic that a lot of fans, a lot of analysts, a lot of people in this business of the NFL have usually associated when it comes to these types of contract negotiations. So, the statement that Schefter just made, along with the previous statement that he has made, is what I and many other Lions fans have had weighing on their minds for several weeks, if not months. And again, that is pretty much the whole summation of this offseason when it comes to the contract negotiations for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. It's like, listen, we are trying to get an understanding of what is going on with the situation. And again, the issue for Lions fans, I'm going to clarify that, at least for most of them, is not necessarily the matter of whether the Lions are going to give these two men contracts, Goff and St. Brown, because we already know that is definitely happening. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about this. Dan Campbell has said that the Lions' priority is to get those guys under new contracts. And again, for me, that means that the issue, the question that Lions fans are having isn't necessarily a two-folded question. How and when? Meaning, how much money and when will they be signed? Now, the matter of this is how probable of, how do I say this? The how is probably the greatest concern of this whole situation. That question is the one that has a lot of people wondering. Because if you think about it, at least according to Schefter's perspective, everything is predicated solely on everything else fitting into that question. What I mean is, how much money they get is solely predicated on everything else fitting in there. Because at least what everyone is thinking is that, hey, if you sign the players sooner, that means you're going to save money, which means, well, then everybody wins. The player gets that contract, they get their money, they get their long-term security, and the team, the negotiators, the ball club, they get a contract that's going to save them money in the long run. That's the logic. And Schefter said it, and most other analysts and Lions fans would agree with that logic. Hence why many Lions fans, over the lack of progress that has been going on, have concerns about what's going on with the contract negotiations. Like I just highlighted in a previous episode, I'll put that link back up at the top. However, though, again, when it comes to Brad Holmes and it comes to Dan Campbell, I want to remind everybody that we have to trust them, especially when it comes to this situation. Because we have to understand, first and foremost, one, what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have built, and secondly, what they have said. What do I mean by this? Let me explain. What they have built is based upon the fact that the team has to be a team of grit, a team of integrity, and that the team has to be accountable. This is based also upon what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have said and have done when it comes to their handling of themselves inside of, the media and what they've done as far as their own, public affairs and everything else. And then finally, team first. Those are the 3 points right there that exemplify, in my opinion, what the Detroit Lions are right now. Grit and integrity, accountability, and a team-first mindset. Here's what I mean by this. When it comes to Holmes and Campbell, when they first got together, they had a vision about how they were going to build this team and the ideal that they were going to build it on with the players that they wanted to go after. And their players were supposed to be not only physically tough, but mentally tough. And they wanted players that would also not only hold themselves accountable, but would also hold other players accountable. And that was something that started at the top with Holmes and Campbell, because they were like, listen, we're not only going to hold the players accountable, we're going to hold ourselves accountable. And you have to think about it. The organization has done a very good job of that so far, aka most recently what's been going on with the Cameron Sutton incident. As soon as the news came out, the Lions were like, listen, we're tracking the situation. We want to find out all pertinent information. And then once it kind of came out that, okay, this was what was going on, Cameron Sutton was immediately released. They didn't wait. They were like, listen, we're not going to wait. We're going to take this and we're going to nip this right in the butt. So for me, it was like, okay, the Lions are making sure that they not only hold their players accountable, but they're accountable and to what they have said is going to be their mission, their ideology for a team. They want players that fit that. And if you stray from that, they are not going to be like, hey, you know what? We can't cut this player because they're too talented. No, they will go out and find somebody else. So when you keep all that in mind, both Goff and St. Brown know that they're accountable not only to themselves, but they're accountable to the team. So in that sense, being greedy or being selfish is going to be a stain. It's going to be a taint, if you will, on the ideology of Campbell and Holmes and the rest of the team. Furthermore, you have to also think about what Holmes said about Jared Goff prior to when we started getting into this whole conversation and worry that a lot of Lions fans have had. He said that Goff and the Lions were aligned with the negotiations, and that I can tell you this, if Goff and Holmes are aligned with the negotiations as they are right now, I can guarantee you this, that the same thing is true for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because again, it's not like, well, Jared Goff's got a special situation. It doesn't apply to everybody else. No, everybody's operating on the same pattern. Everyone is operating on the same playbook. Nobody gets special treatment. So it's like, listen, if Goff and the Lions have the same alignment about how this negotiation process is going to go, it's the same thing for Amon-Ra St. Brown. But nobody's thinking about that with Amon-Ra St. Brown because everybody believes that the Lions are going to sign Amon-Ra St. Brown because everybody believes there's no reason why the Lions wouldn't. It's just not the same for Jared Goff. That's why some Lions fans are like, well, you know, what's going on with Jared Goff here because he hasn't gotten a contract negotiation taken care of. The reason why is because there are still people that think that the Lions are not really truly interested in signing him, or they're just putting this up for show, which again, I have expressed how I think that's personally silly. But then you have to think about this. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff, these are also guys that not only hold themselves accountable to the team and each other, but these are guys that also know that this is a team sport. And when it comes to this sport, the team comes first. Meaning, while they are worth more money, while they are worth getting those big buck contracts, they certainly are going to be able to get that money, but they're also going to take less for the betterment of the team, because that is what it means to be a part of the Detroit Lions right now. That's what it means to be a Dan Campbell Detroit Lion. Again, Dan Campbell said it when he was like, listen, not everybody can be a Detroit Lion. He specifically said it with this quote. He said, there is no level of talent that is worth bringing something that doesn't fit what we're about in there. And what he's specifically saying there's like, listen, there is no player that is too talented that we are going to adjust, we are going to change what we personally believe about our team. And we're not going to just bring them in if it doesn't fit with our culture, it doesn't fit with our ideology. Pretty much the whole point of the matter is what Dan Campbell is trying to say is talent is not the primary indicator about why you become a Detroit Lion now. It's about if you fit the team's culture, you fit the team's ideology. And that is something that I know Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown do. They fit what those guys are all about, Holmes and Campbell. Team first, gritty, integrity, accountability to themselves and to the team. These are guys that are going to follow that ideology because they've bought into it and they are core players of it. My whole point is this. I fully expect that Goff and St. Brown will get deals done. And I have stated the reason I think that they haven't gotten it done yet is because we're waiting on the draft and that the deals will probably get done after the draft. And it would surprise nobody. How do I put this? To me, the deals are going to surprise everybody that have been thinking the process that Adam Schefter is thinking, and it will show further the commitment that these types of players, Goff and St. Brown and the rest of the ball club, have to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' ideology of, listen, we're team first. We have integrity about how we're going to handle ourselves with not only each other, but with the team. We're going to be accountable to the team and to each other as well. That's what I'm saying here with this episode. So again, I understand why there's concern. I understand why people are wondering about this. But to me, it's like, listen, it's going to get done, and I believe it is definitely going to fit with the Lions' ideology. It's going to fit with their culture, and it's going to surprise people at the end of all this. But anyway, I'm going to end the episode here, and I just want to say to everybody, thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you not had a chance to do so, again, highly encourage y'all to please subscribe and also watch the next episode that I got coming out. Also, make sure after you subscribe, you please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon that's also at the bottom, so that way you never miss any more content that I'm pushing out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you guys turn on the notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Again, also encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows and spreads. And with that, hope all you guys and girls have got something out there that makes you happy, makes you smile. Hope you all have something that you just have something that lights your day up. I hope you all enjoyed the content. And with that, folks, I just want to say, everyone, God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.